Tonight on Reporting Scotland, former patients at Scotland's biggest children's psychiatric unit describe a culture of cruelty. They say they were mocked by staff and that nurses quickly resorted to force.
It was mostly just restraints after restraints after restraints. Instead of asking you what's wrong, they would just put you on the floor and inject you with medication.
NHS Greater Glasgow says it's incredibly sorry and has launched 2 investigations into the unit. Also on tonight's programme. The funeral of 6-year-old Hope Gordon, who was murdered last month, takes place in Livingston. A transgender doctor at the centre of an NHS employment tribunal has repeatedly insisted on being a woman after being called a man by lawyers.
Coming up in tonight's sport, Rangers manager Philippe Clement is not considering his future despite his side suffering one of the biggest upsets in the history of the Scottish Cup.
Hello, I'm Laura Goodwin. Welcome to Monday's programme. A culture of cruelty at Scotland's biggest children's psychiatric unit. That's the claim by former patients admitted as teenagers to Skye House in Glasgow's Stobhill Hospital. A BBC Disclosure investigation spoke to 28 former patients who say they felt punished for being unwell. NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde says it's incredibly sorry and has launched 2 inquiries into the allegations. This report from our investigations correspondent Mark Daly contains distressing details.
I was just a scared, undiagnosed, autistic 14-year-old that didn't know what was up ahead.
Abby was depressed and self-harming when she was first admitted to hospital. She said nursing staff there could be cruel and mocked her attempts at taking her own life.
The nurse walked in and said, "Well, you obviously didn't want to do it because you would have tried harder. You need to try harder next time." And that just shocked me and fueled my fire and, to be honest, made me want to go and do it properly, as she would say.
Skye House on the grounds of Glasgow's Stobhill Hospital is Scotland's biggest NHS children's psychiatric unit. The BBC's Disclosure programme has spoken to more than 25 former patients who've made allegations about their treatment there.
It just felt so dehumanising, and it was almost as if I was getting treated like an animal.
Jenna was admitted in 2021, aged 16, suffering from depression and anorexia. She says the culture among sections of the nursing staff was toxic.
They would say stuff like, "You're being dramatic," or "This is ridiculous." They'd tell me that I was being selfish. They'd say I was disgusting.
Were you getting any better in Skye House?
I definitely wasn't getting better. In fact, I think I was getting a lot worse.
Patients like Cara, who was being treated for anorexia in Skye House, alleged staff were over-reliant on physical interventions like restraints and sedatives. She was restrained more than 400 times in 18 months.
It traumatises you. You can't forget it. You would have scratches and handprints on you just from holding you down. Sometimes it would bruise.
It was mostly just restraints after restraints after restraints. Instead of asking you what's wrong, they would just put you on the floor and inject you with medication.
Stephanie says one nurse lost her temper with her because she refused to have a shower.
She's then dragged me off the bed by my legs and turned the shower on and put me in the shower with my clothes on and then just walked away and left.
It's abusive. It's completely wrong, and if that occurred as that young person described, it's absolutely and completely unacceptable.
NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde said it had previously been aware of issues at Skye House and has already made improvements. It's now investigating the BBC's new allegations.
Children being told they're pathetic, disgusting, a nuisance, having their suicide attempts mocked. Do you accept this as cruelty?
I accept they are far below the level of care that we would expect. It is far below the level of care that we would expect, and certainly very sorry for the experience of not receiving the level of care that they'd anticipated going in.
The number of children referred to mental health services in Scotland is up by 50% over the past decade. These young people say they've spoken out to ensure those who come after them don't have to endure what they did. Mark Daly, reporting Scotland.
For details of organisations which offer support with mental health or feelings of despair, go online to bbc.co.uk/actionline. And you can watch the full disclosure investigation, Kids on the Psychiatric Ward, on BBC One Scotland at 8 o'clock this evening. It's also available now on the BBC iPlayer. Mourners lined the streets of Livingston this afternoon for the funeral of 6-year-old Hope Gordon. The schoolgirl's coffin, decorated in her favourite cartoon characters, was taken by a horse-drawn carriage through the town. Hope and her 36-year-old father were found dead in a property in West Calder last month. A murder investigation was launched into her death. Suzanne Allen reports.
Behind the horse-drawn carriage, Hope's family carry her coffin with heartbreaking dignity. The 6-year-old's family wanted this to be called Hope's Day and asked anyone who wanted to pay their respects to line the streets. It is very much a celebration of her life, who she was and what she loved, including the children's TV programme Paw Patrol. The intensely private, friends and family only funeral service was held at midday in Livingston. Hope's Aunt Tess wrote and recited a poem. Having waited in the rain, some paid their respects by throwing roses. Others marked it silently as the procession made its way along the nearly 2-mile route to Adambury Cemetery. One of the tributes was from Toronto Primary School, where Hope had been a pupil. The bodies of Hope and her 36-year-old father, Mark, were discovered at a property in Harburn Drive in West Calder on January the 20th. The alarm was raised after she failed to turn up to school. Police are treating her death as murder and the investigation is now closed. They're not looking for anyone else in connection with her death. Relatives and friends have described Hope as a vibrant and loving little girl with an infectious smile and a deep love for animals, whose death has left a void in the family that can never be filled. Suzanne Allen, reporting Scotland, Livingston.
Some of the day's other stories now. And police are urging people to contact them with information about 2 teenagers who've been missing from Glasgow for a week. 14-year-old Tolas Hamid and Suleiman Adam were last seen at Buchanan bus station boarding a bus to London at 9:15 last Monday night. A man accused of murdering his wife, who disappeared in 1984, has been deemed unfit to stand trial. 79-year-old William Hodge is alleged to have killed Marion Hodge, then 34, in Lockerbie. Her body has never been found. The High Court in Glasgow heard Mr Hodge suffers from signs of dementia. A 60 miles per hour speed limit on a stretch of the A9 south of Inverness is to be reduced to 40 from next month until spring 2028. Transport Scotland say it will be in place until a 6-mile section between Tomatin and Moy is upgraded to dual carriageway. Well, Amy is here to tell us what's coming up on the news at 7. What have you got for us?
Hi, Laura. Packed programme as always, and we're going to be hearing from the Glasgow-based scientists who are working to break the link that can exist between opioids and addiction. It's essentially a new medicine that they are working on so that it can be taken alongside an opioid, so you still get the pain relief, but without the risk of addiction. So we'll be hearing all about that. Also, we're meeting Scotland's new national poet, who talks to us about his concerns about AI and the threat that it poses, not just for writers, but for publishers and for readers as well. And if you're wondering what a furry convention is, we will give you the answer to that.
Thank you very much, Amy.
Thanks.
A transgender doctor at the centre of an NHS employment tribunal has repeatedly insisted on being a woman after being called a man by lawyers during cross-examination. Dr Beth Upton was giving evidence in the case brought by a nurse who was suspended when she complained about having to share a changing room with the doctor at Victoria Hospital in Kirkcaldy. Louise Cowie reports.
Surrounded by supporters, Dr Beth Upton arrived for day 6 of the employment tribunal. Much of this morning centred on the use of the female changing room at this Fife hospital. Nurse Sandy Peggy claims that being made to share the facility with Dr Upton, who is a trans woman, amounts to unlawful harassment under the Equality Act.
It was put to Dr Upton that you knew some of your colleagues were unhappy. Dr Upton replied that as a trans person, I am aware some people are misinformed, uninformed or biased, bigoted, have transphobic views. I'm aware that people hold those views and I'm aware I might work with some of those. Nurse Peggy's solicitor continued, the reason they might be unhappy was obvious. You're male and it's an invasion of their privacy. To which Dr Upton replied, I'm not male. Why they might be uncomfortable is up to them. I would disagree. My presence is an invasion of their privacy.
The tribunal had previously heard that Beth Upton began transitioning in 2022. It also heard that on starting work at the Victoria in August 2023, a supervisor said the junior doctor should use the female changing room.
Much of this afternoon's proceedings centred on language. Dr Upton repeatedly insisted on being a woman when called a man by Nurse Peggy's solicitor, stating at one point, I'm biologically female. When questioned further, the doctor went on to say there is no agreed definition of biological sex. It's a nebulous term.
Dr Upton complained to NHS Fife about Miss Peggy's behaviour after an exchange between the pair in December 2023, which the two sides dispute, claiming that it was bullying. Miss Peggy was put on leave and then suspended in January last year. Dr Upton will continue to give evidence at the tribunal tomorrow. Louise Cowie, reporting Scotland, Dundee.
The Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar says there's been nowhere near enough progress on dealing with the closure of Grangemouth refinery. The site's due to shut down by this summer with the loss of more than 400 jobs. Well, our business correspondent David Henderson is here. So David, this has already been a source of tension within Labour. Is this a sign of further unease?
Well, it looks that way, Laura. It was last winter when we learned that Grangemouth was to close with the loss of more than 400 jobs. It's hit the headlines again in the last few days because the owner, Petro Ineos, have now been writing out to workers, making clear that almost all of them will be laid off in the next few months. That's long before the site can be turned into a clean energy hub, as some had been hoping. Now, that's prompted alarm, notably from the local Labour MP, Brian Leishman. Yesterday, he told us of his anger with the UK Labour government, in other words, his own team. He said they should be doing an awful lot more. Today, the Scottish Labour leader, Anna Sarwar, told us that there's been nowhere near enough progress on dealing with the closure. He says every time he talks to the Prime Minister, he raises this subject, but he's also pointing the finger at the SNP government and the last Conservative government at Westminster. He says both of them were inactive when the threat of closure became real.
And what's been the reaction to that?
Well, the UK government says it's put in place a plan to support the community, to invest in the workforce while it develops options for what it calls a sustainable industrial future at the site. But the SNP accuse Anna Sarwar of not being straight with people. They say less than a year ago he was talking of stepping in to save Grangemouth, and now they say he's washing his hands of responsibility. So this has turned into a major political row, and no one wants to take the blame.
OK, David, many thanks indeed. Well, sticking with the Scottish Labour leader, he's pledging to keep a range of free entitlements if he gets into power at Holyrood next year. The SNP say Labour are pretending to be the SNP. Here's our political correspondent, Andrew Kerr.
It's Labour's spring conference on the banks of the Clyde next week. Today, Anna Sarwar setting out his stall ahead of the election next year. The Labour leader's keeping key policies, including free tuition and the Scottish Child Payment. Some are original Labour pledges, some SNP policies.
So what exactly has changed? You have previously suggested that you were in favour
of these things. Is this now just Labour panic? Are you just flailing around?
Well, we have always supported free tuition in Scotland. It's a Labour government in Scotland that did not introduce tuition fees. It is a Labour government previously that introduced free personal care. I was the first politician to advocate for a Scottish Child Payment in Scotland. But what I'm saying is these successes of devolution can't be used as a cover for a failing government.
Last month, Mr Sarwar said this in a speech.
It means working people struggling against an SNP government without a vision or a plan, who think tax rises and handouts are the only solutions to rising poverty.
Does this statement today not contradict that?
No, I stand by that. This is an SNP government that believes that a benefit payment is the silver bullet to challenge poverty when it's not. So I welcome the Scottish Child Payment. I support a Scottish Child Payment. But at the same time as having a Scottish Child Payment, we have 10,000 children in our country who are homeless.
In Orkney, the First Minister gave his reaction.
Anas Sarwar spent last week pretending that he was an ally of Nigel Farage, and this week he's trying to pretend to be the SNP by adopting lots of SNP policies. I think what that demonstrates is that Anas Sarwar is ashamed of being a representative of the Labour Party, and no wonder, because they've been a disaster in government.
You've got two parties in Holyrood, the SNP and Labour, who are essentially exactly the same. They believe in free universal benefits for everybody, and without any regard to efficiencies in government or saving public money.
Anas Sarwar says the pledges are affordable if you get rid of wasteful spending. He's carving out a clear policy division with colleagues at Westminster, still hoping to win next year. Andrew Kerr, reporting Scotland.
Right, let's get tonight's sport with Lewis. How would you describe that weekend of sport?
Highs and lows.
In
every sense of it. In every sport involved, Laura, it was quite an action-packed weekend.
Sure was.
Thanks very much. Hello there. Yes, well, there's only one place to start tonight, and that is with Championship side Queen's Park humbling Philippe Clement's Rangers in the Scottish Cup, winning 1-0 at Ibrox and surviving a 95th minute penalty scare to reach the quarter-finals. It's a result that piles further pressure on the Rangers manager, while those Spiders players' exploits will long be remembered. Kenny Crawford's been along to see how a few of them are feeling today.
Back on their own patch of Glasgow, 3 of Queen's Park's Scottish Cup heroes, including 26-year-old goalkeeper Callum Ferry, who's unlikely to experience this intensity of drama ever again.
Tavernier, oh, it's a save! Cal Ferry has saved it and surely sent Queen's Park through into the next round of the Cup. What a moment!
You couldn't have put that in a script and believed it, so it's absolutely buzzing. These things don't happen often in football careers, so you just got to enjoy it, take the moment and enjoy it as it is.
I've got to ask, the gloves that you're wearing, the goalkeeper gloves, will they be a prized possession forevermore?
I think I'll definitely have to find somewhere in the house for them. As I said, I'm not sure my missus will be very happy about another bit of football tat in the house, but I'll try my best to convince her.
Queen's Park player in, dead down the middle. Roach is waiting for it, tries to take the touch, gets the ball in and scores!
It's an unbelievable feeling, really. It's probably the best moment of my career so far. Playing in front of 40,000 and scoring a winner and being able to see the game through, it's just unbelievable.
So I can do the things I've been wanting.
I went in and a lot of the boys were sitting down, and I don't think they realised how big of an occasion it was to get a result there. So as I say, I was straight over Disco Land on the speaker and just started encouraging everyone up. The video gets sent out to a couple of close friends, and before I knew it was spreading like wildfire, so I'll need to do my investigation and find out who actually sent it on from there.
Queen's Park for the Cup?
Look, take it game by game, eh? Never know, might end 130 years of hurt, is it?
Queen's Park were Scottish Cup winners 10 times back in the 19th century, but this has been a modern day moment for the fans to enjoy.
Oh, it's just disbelief. I'm used to going up to Elgin away midweek in snowstorms, so yeah, you just don't expect that at all. Don't even dream of winning away at Ibrox Stadium, and I think you could see the emotion some of the fans at the full-time whistle, some of them tears of joy. It's just unbelievable.
Is there fear now? I don't think there is. Honestly, you go on, you take it on. Callum Davidson has been fantastic since he's been here. He's a fantastic cup manager as well, fantastic league manager, but he's got this incredible record in the cups. Who's to say no?
Maybe, just maybe, the Spiders of Lesser Hampden will soon have a semi-final over the wall. Kenny Crawford, reporting Scotland.
OK, to Rangers now, and manager Philippe Clement insists that he is not considering his future, and there appears to be no knee-jerk reaction from the board to sack their manager either after a humiliating defeat at Ibrox. While many supporters are comparing yesterday's 1-0 defeat to a similar shock against Berwick Rangers in this competition 58 years ago, and it certainly ranks alongside some of the biggest upsets we've seen in the Scottish Cup. It's the first time Rangers have ever lost at home in the Cup to a team outside of the top flight.
Of course, results like this, I'm frustrated about that. Everybody's frustrated about that. But the only way for this club to get consistency for the future and to build something is to keep consistency. They can be right to be angry. No, I'm angry also. I'm angry about the results. I'm not happy with the result, and it's unacceptable. And the players know that also.
You look back to Giovanni van Bronckhorst about 2 years ago, and getting to a European final was not enough to take away the blemishes of the domestic failings. I don't think 17 months in, you're looking at Clement's setup and saying there's enough here to say it's going to succeed long term. I think Rangers are right to look long term, but it's a risk to stick with a manager when the season is over by this stage. So Europe's great, yes. First and foremost, you need to have a domestic template that works. And since this time last year, Clements just hasn't.
Well, the fifth round of the Scottish Cup comes to a close tonight when St Mirren host Hearts. Brian McLaughlin is in Paisley for us.
Yes, good evening from the Smiza Stadium here in Paisley, where St Mirren and Hearts will battle it out to be the final club through to the last 8 of this year's Scottish Cup. St Mirren 3 times already the holders of this famous trophy, the last time back in 1987. For Hearts, well, they've lifted this famous trophy on 8 previous occasions. The match kicks off at 7:45. It's live on the BBC Scotland channel, but don't go away after that, because the draw for the quarter-finals takes place immediately after it. It's going to be a dramatic night here in Paisley this evening.
To rugby now, and it was yet another defeat against Ireland for Gregor Townsend, Scotland, who barely laid a glove on the rampant visitors at Murrayfield yesterday. The Irish raced into a healthy 17-point lead. A late try from Duhan van der Merwe in the first half was a rare moment to celebrate for the home crowd. Scotland started the second period with promise before the favourites to win the competition, then cruised to victory. It finished 18-32 in Edinburgh. 11 defeats now and 11 attempts against Ireland for Scotland's head coach.
We made a few errors in that first 20 minutes. A couple of handling errors, obviously the penalty that led to a yellow card, that put us under unnecessary pressure. But the middle period was where we got back into the game. We just didn't do enough to get ahead in the scoreboard. I think the bigger learning is, like, we have to do more to stop an opposition like Ireland getting into our 22, because pressure comes from that.
And finally, it was a weekend of cup upsets, and in the English FA Cup, it was Ryan Hardy from Stranraer who dealt the all-important blow to send Giants Liverpool out in the 4th round. Sitting bottom of the second-tier championship, Plymouth Argyle were 1-0 winners over the Premier League leaders, thanks to Hardy's second-half penalty. And it's safe to say that the Scot is cherishing the moment.
Yeah, I'd love Man United. Take them here and have another go at it. But as I said, any team will be looking at the draw with close eyes. Yeah, we swapped. I got 9, number 9, Darwin. Yeah, it's going to be one where it'll go on my wall. One of the great shirts that I've got. Obviously, he's a fantastic player, and to get the number 9 shirt, it's a good swap for me.
Not a bad memento, that one, is it?
Pretty good.
And I like the confidence as well. Man U in the next round, why not?
A lot of talk of giant killers in this sport.
It's been a bit of a theme.
Yeah, Lewis, thank you very
Thanks,
much indeed.
Laura.
We're actually sticking with sport. And that's because we go to the weather. Young Finn O'Neill from Northern Ireland thought he had lost his hurling ball forever when it went missing on a beach in Donegal last year. 8 months on, Finn got word that the ball had been found after washing up on a beach in Scotland. Donald MacIsaac discovered it near his home in South Uist. He contacted Finn's hurling club and now hopes to reunite him with his prized memento.
So I was hitting it against a rock, and then I went over that rock, and then I went over to find it, but we still couldn't find it.
I was just on top of the shoreline, and what I saw, I think, was initially was auk, which in Scottish Gaelic it's young. And obviously then I noticed the ball, and when I picked it up, it obviously had more information on it, and it looked like something kind of personal to somebody.
Good to have his name on it. Time now for the weather with Christopher. Have you found any sunshine for us?
A little bit, actually. Lovely picture there, not a million miles away from where that was found. Some blue sky. It was in short supply today, though, wasn't it, Laura? Thank you very much indeed. Good evening to you. Yes, we've had a lot of cloud around with some showers, some winteriness to some of those showers, bit of sleet, snow on the hills and a cold east wind. And it's with us throughout the course of this week. High pressure situated to our east or northeast and an easterly wind feeding in that cold continental air. So it will be a chilly few days ahead. Into this evening and overnight, we've got a lot of cloud around, those showers streaming in on the east winds. Again, a little bit of winteriness across the higher ground. Temperatures 1 to 3 Celsius and not as cold in the northwest as we saw last night because there's more cloud around. And that's how we start the day tomorrow, on a rather cloudy grey note. Once again, a few showers coming in on east winds. Some drier air over towards the east coast, perhaps just drifting westwards into the afternoon, and that could brighten things up across southern Scotland. Not a lot of sunshine, has to be said, but something a little bit brighter compared with today. Temperatures 6, 7 Celsius at best through central and southern Scotland. Further north, cooler than that, and actually more cloud around across the Highlands and Islands compared with today. So not quite the sunniest skies that we had, but still sitting pretty there in Shetland. Lots of sunshine and blue sky for you. Tomorrow evening and tomorrow night, once again cloudy with further showers. Then from Wednesday onwards, that ridge of high pressure still with us, keeping weather fronts at bay, acting like a barrier. That means still a lot of dry but cloudy weather to come. This is Wednesday. Once again, a few showers in towards the Lothians and borders. Elsewhere, dry. Best of the sunshine once again in the northwest. A return to those blue skies. Not doing much for the temperature, mind. 4 to 6 Celsius. Again, feeling cool in the wind. And then on Thursday, a lot of dry but cloudy weather. Best chance of any brighter conditions around the west coast and across the Hebrides. 4 to 6 Celsius, likely the afternoon high. And you can see that quite clearly on the outlook here through towards the weekend. 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees. Best chance of any prolonged sunshine in the northwest. The showers most frequent in the east. That's the forecast for now.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Now, tonight's main news again. Former patients at Scotland's biggest children's psychiatric hospital have spoken to the BBC about a culture of cruelty among nursing staff. The Health Board has apologised and launched 2 inquiries. And that's where we leave you this evening. Christopher and I will be here with your late news and weather at around 10:30. But until then, from everyone on the team, thank you very much indeed for joining us and enjoy your evening. Bye.